when I started spiraling again into the drinking, the fornication, and all the wrong stuff. I got in a dark place where I even had thoughts about ending my own life. But that was a lie. That was a lie from the enemy. That's it. I clamped down and became obedient. Hi, my name is Sergi, and you're watching The Process to Salvation. And I just want to give you guys a rundown of my life in general, how I got here to the United States, and my testimony in finding the Lord. So basically, I was born in a small territory of Russia called Pridnestrovia, which is located in between Moldova and Ukraine. At the time, it was 1990. It was the Soviet Union still. And it was communism. What happened was, when the Soviet Union split up, basically there was a war for territory. The territory I was in wanted to remain part of Russia instead of going to Moldova. So there was an uprising to fight the Moldovan forces to remain with Russia. And we had to get out of there, my family that is. We had to flee, we had to get out of there. And we went to Yalta, which is Crimea, as you guys may call it, which is now Russian, part of Russia. But at the same time, that area, it became its own little territory, like its own little country called Pridnestrovia, which Russia kind of supported. Meanwhile, in Yalta, my parents and my grandparents, they were getting together papers and whatnot to come to the United States, because we had an aunt that lived over here. And she basically helped us get green cards and stuff and come to the United States. So I arrived here at almost 3 years old in 1993. And I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, North Hollywood at the time, Los Angeles. And you know, it was kind of rough getting adjusted and everything, but I did. So I grew up, you know, basically American. And then my family we ended up moving to Granada Hills, a better area of the San Fernando Valley, in my teen years. My family, I wouldn't say that they were very religious or any of that at all, but we did follow the Russian Orthodox religion. So we did go to the Russian Orthodox Church here and there, specifically for like baptisms or Easter, you know, Orthodox Easter. We did all that. And I did, you know, as a kid, I read Genesis, I guess, the book of Genesis, the first book of the Bible, and a few little, you know, lightweight stuff. I wasn't really, like I said, my family wasn't that religious. So basically, when I became a teenager, I started thinking for myself and going off into the world. I kind of lost touch, or I don't know if I even really had a foundation with the Lord at the time. So basically, as a kid, as a teenager, I started playing sports, hockey, basketball, soccer, and I boxed, which but boxing, I took it the most serious. But as my teen years rolled on, and I would say specifically around 12th grade, I started partying a lot. And I created like a party crew. And there was like a scene. And I got into the wrong stuff. You could kind of guess. And that continued into my early 20s. And eventually, I would say I became an alcoholic and whatnot. And I had a girlfriend at a time, and she became an alcoholic. and we were both drinking a lot, and there was no Lord in our life at all. Like, I believed in Jesus, but we didn't have the Lord in our life. And that relationship, we lasted 8 years. It didn't end up working out. I became single after that. And as in my single life, things got worse, I would say. Like, the drinking increased, doing, all types of bad stuff increased. I don't want to really get into all that. But basically, I found myself in a very dark place. And then, I would say around 2021, all my friends, so-called friends and everything, they just disappeared. And at this time, I was already 31 years old. So I spent a whole decade and a half just basically doing the wrong things, as I would come to find out. I got in a dark place where I even had thoughts about ending my own life. So it was really dark. Then, I started figuring myself out. I started finding things out. Being alone, being isolated, I would say. And that's when I found the Lord. I'm not specifically sure how that happened, but I think I started watching YouTube videos and whatnot. And then I just felt convicted, for the first time. Like, I had to do better for myself. I had to change. I started, listening to scripture. I wouldn't say I read the Bible just yet, but I would listen to scriptures here and there. And I started fasting and figuring things out spiritually and getting closer to the Lord. I wouldn't say I gave up my vices at the time. I was kind of lukewarm, trying to justify drinking and fornication and all that with following Jesus, which, that isn't right. But I was a baby in the process. And that's what this channel that I'm starting is about. I want to help people figure out the process better of how to find the Lord and be saved. But anyway, I continued being lukewarm and whatnot for a couple of years. So I would say like 2023. I think it was October 2023. Where I was just sitting on the couch thinking, like, looking back at my life, like, I'm already 33 years old. I've been doing all right for myself here and there, but what is my purpose? Like, I needed a purpose. I was already into YouTube, but it wasn't really going anywhere. So I was just like, what is my purpose in life? Lord, help me find my purpose. And right there, I just got convicted. I was smoking marijuana for 16 years every day of my life. Every day, multiple times a day. And that moment, I just didn't want to do it anymore. I just quit cold turkey on the spot, which was big. I was like, wow. At the same time, I quit alcohol on the spot. And I quit, the masturbation, those sites. And the only thing I didn't quit was still fornicating. Because I couldn't quit that just yet. That was my hardest vice. But everything else, I quit. And even when I fornicated, I felt bad after. I really did. And I was really starting to fast a lot, and I was getting into the Spirit, learning more about the Bible, the Lord. And I was really feeling saved and convicted. I felt the Holy Spirit for like the first time in my life. Well, not the first time, but I felt it really strong. The problem was I still had one foot in with the darkness, because everyone around me was still partying and indulging in nightlife. And even though I wasn't drinking, I wasn't smoking, or really indulging in a lot of those activities, I would still go out, and it would still do something to my spirit. And at the same time, I was experiencing really hard spiritual warfare where my finances were being threatened. My dog, which I had for nearly 17 years, all of a sudden passed. And at the same time, I caught a real serious case of COVID. So I was going through it. The devil attacked me really hard because this is the first time in my life where I was really taking God serious. And eventually, on New Year's 2024, the start of 2024, I relapsed. And I fed into the temptation and started drinking again. Now in my mind, I was trying to play it off as, oh, I could just do this tonight and go right back. But no, it didn't work that way. It never does. So eventually I fell back into all the bad stuff. And then I got another girlfriend. I mean, I had girlfriends, but I would say I only had about 2 serious relationships where we lived together. So she moved in with me, and I would say that's when I started spiraling again into the drinking, the fornication, and all the wrong stuff. And there was a lot of drama. And it proceeded down the line. We broke up on and off. It was a toxic relationship. She was, lukewarm too, I would say. She knew the Lord, but she wasn't obedient. We would be on and off for, I would say, a couple of years, almost. It recently ended like December 2025. So coming into the new year, 2026, I really wanted to find the Lord, but I couldn't quit my vices. I couldn't stop drinking or, the other stuff, the lust. So to get my mind off of things, I wanted to get back into music, which I don't think I mentioned, but I was recording, making rap songs, editing, all that. I was doing that pretty much my whole 20s. And then when I got convicted originally in 23, the Lord told me, this isn't good. What are you spreading? What kind of message are you spreading? So I quit. But I decided to get back into it, try a little different approach. But it led me down to the same thing, the drinking. And no matter how hard I tried to proclaim the Lord in my message, in my music, there was always these bars that would come into my head, which is kind of contradicting at the same time. And I honestly think rap itself does not go with the Lord. It's kind of like Satan's music. And I know a lot of Christian rap would challenge that, but just the cadence itself, just the beats itself, it has a vibration to it. It has a cadence to it that kind of programs your head to go the opposite way. I learned this because I know music. I've studied rap. I know music. And rap itself is not, it's demonic. But anyway, I was doing this and I decided to go to Vegas, gamble, and have just a weekend to myself where I went crazy. And I did. I drank the whole time and other stuff. You can kind of guess. But when I was done with that, I had such a strong conviction. I felt so bad. And I felt like I really let the Lord down. And I lost salvation, so to say. But that was a lie. That was a lie from the enemy. However, when I got back, I decided that was it. That was it. I am done with everything. And this was just like a month ago. I'm not saying I've been at this for a long time. But yeah, basically like a month and some change ago, that's it. I clamped down and became obedient. I've been fasting, and I've been on the righteous path. Not to say I haven't got temptation, because I have. But I felt like my whole journey led me to this point where I can combat the spiritual warfare. And that's where I'm at right now. That's where I'm at. And basically this channel, I want to help people fight the battle. It's a process to salvation. Follow the Lord. Stay tuned for the next video where I will be talking about the spiritual warfare. Thank you.